Let's be honest, Kubernetes is the most complex DevOps technology today. I had so many issues understanding its quite powerful features, such as, for example, declarative configuration, self-healing workloads, service discovery, different types of resources, and how the components communicate with each other. I'm not really mentioning how it all works with other cloud-native tools, such as, for example, Argo, Helm, Flux, or Calico. Without a solid basics, you'll most likely get discouraged, and frankly, it also happened to me many years ago when I first tried to study it without proper solid basics. I quickly realized that without deep knowledge of networking, Linux, Docker container engineering, there is no point of even starting to learn about Kubernetes, as even starting the cluster is, challenge to say the least. So today I would like to start a new series about all cloud native tools, and honestly there is so much to cover, from Kubernetes architecture, scheduling, objects, security and troubleshooting. However, today we'll start our journey with, I think, what is the most appropriate and natural place to start: Kubernetes architecture. Docker is also included in the LPI DevOps Engineer Tools certification. Click the link in the description to get 5% discount on the exam. Now let's come back to our training. Why here? Well, because to harness the power of auto-scaling, pods, self-healing, we all need to first comprehend the building components of Kubernetes. So once you understand how Kubernetes works under the hood, everything will become far easier and honestly much more enjoyable, as you know which element is responsible for each function. So let's talk about the Kubernetes architecture, and the natural place to start is control plane. Part 1, control plane. So the control plane is the central management server or brain behind the Kubernetes cluster, responsible for the desired state of the cluster. It consists of 4 parts. First is the API server, which really acts like an interface for managing the cluster and communicates with all of the components. Second part is scheduler. So scheduler assigns the pods and to nodes based on the resource availability and policies. Third part is the controller manager. So basically it handles the background tasks, such as, for example, maintaining the node health, scaling and other cluster-wide operations. Last but not least, etcd. So this is a key value store that stores all of the cluster data, including configuration and state. Now let's look at all of these 4 elements in more detail. Let's go one by one to see what are the specifics about this part. API server. So API server is a component of the Kubernetes cluster of the control plane that exposes the Kubernetes API. So this is like an initial gateway to the cluster that listens the updates or queries via the command line tool like kubectl. So kubectl communicates with API server to inform what needs to be done, like for example create a port, or for example delete a pod, etc. So it also works as a sort of a gatekeeper. It generally validates the requests, receives them and forwards them to other processes. No request can be passed directly to the cluster, it has to first be passed through the API server. Some of the functions of the API server are, for example, validation. It checks each request, its proper syntax, access permissions and whether it follows the Kubernetes rule. Second function, authentication and authorization. It ensures that only authorized users or services can perform actions on the cluster. Next function is the admission control. Before any changes can be applied, the API server passes the request through admission controllers, which can enforce policies, inject default values or reject requests that violates the rules. Next function, forwarding requests. So once validated, the API server forwards the request to the appropriate controller or schedules that carry out all of the desired actions. Second part, Kube Scheduler. So the Kube Scheduler is a core component of the Kubernetes control plane. So it is responsible for assigning any newly created pods to the most suitable node in the cluster. So its main goal is to ensure that the pods are placed on the nodes that meets the resource requirement, constraints, and other preferences, while also optimizing cluster utilization and availability. So the process can be divided in basically three steps. So first is the filtering. So here the scheduler removes nodes that can't host the pod due to the insufficient, for example, resources like CPU, memory storage, or GPUs. Node constraints like a node selector, port node affinity, pod affinity, or pod anti-affinity, or if the node is, for example, unschedulable. Then the second part is the scoring. So eligible nodes are scored based on the preferences like, for example, preferred affinities. So the last step is the selection. So here basically the node with the highest score is chosen by the scheduler to schedule the pod on the specific node. Kube Controller Manager. So Kube Controller Manager is a core component of the Kubernetes control plane that runs controllers to manage the cluster state. Controllers are like a background processes that continuously monitor resources and ensure that the cluster matches the desired state. It handles the tasks such as for example, managing jobs, services, accounts, endpoints, and persistent volumes. The Kube Controller Manager acts as a cluster caretaker. Basically, it's automatically maintaining and enforcing the desired configuration. etcd. So etcd is a distributed key value store that acts as a single source of truth for the Kubernetes cluster. Each piece of the cluster states, including pod, services, configuration, and secrets, is stored in etcd, allowing the control plane to reliably manage and reconcile the resources. It provides really strong consistency, ensuring that all of the components in the cluster always have a correct, up-to-date view on the system. While etcd is not CPU intensive, it relies on consensus among the members to maintain the consistency. To prevent the split brain scenario where multiple nodes believe that they are the leader, more than half of the etcd cluster members must agree before any changes are committed. In short, etcd is the foundation of Kubernetes reliability, providing consistency and high performance store for the entire cluster state. Now let's talk about the worker nodes. Worker nodes are managed by the control plane but handle the execution of the workload and communicate their status back to the cluster. So these are the elements that are actually installed that are actually present on the worker node. Container runtime. Container runtime is the software responsible for running containers inside the pod. So it provides all of the environment for containers to execute, including isolated resources, managing container lifestyle, etc. Common examples include, for example, Docker, Containerd, or Creo. So without the container runtime, pods and containers cannot run on the node. Another element, Kubelet. So Kubelet is the agent that runs on every worker node and communicates with the Kubernetes control plane. It interacts with the container runtime to start, stop, and monitor containers inside the pod. So the kubelet ensures that the desired state of each of the pod is as defined by the control plane, matches the actual state on the node. So kubeproxy is a network agent that runs on every worker node and manages network communication for the pods. It is responsible for forwarding requests from services to the correct pods and load balancing the traffic intelligently. Kubeproxy ensures that the network traffic reaches the right container even as the pods are added or removed dynamically. And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. This was a quick overview of Kubernetes architecture. Let's see you next week. Thanks.